Hello and welcome. Before we begin, a brief disclaimer. This video is intended for educational and analytical purposes only. It does not promote any political ideology, party, or individual. All information presented here is based on publicly available data, historical records, and widely reported outcomes. Today, we are examining the presidency of Donald J. Trump, a leader who fundamentally changed how politics looks, sounds, and feels in the modern era. Rather than focusing on emotions, party loyalty, or personal opinions, this video uses a structured artificial intelligence framework to evaluate Trump's decisions, their effectiveness, and their long-term consequences. Donald Trump became the 45th President of the United States in January 2017. His rise to power was unusual. Unlike most presidents, he had no prior experience in elected office or military leadership. He was known primarily as a businessman, real estate developer, and television personality. For many voters, this outsider identity represented strength. They believed Trump would challenge political elites and disrupt a system they felt no longer worked for ordinary people. From the very beginning, Trump positioned himself as a disruptor. His language was direct, confrontational, and often unpredictable. This communication style energized supporters and alienated critics. The AI model used in this analysis does not judge tone or personality. Instead, it focuses on outcomes, measurable data, and institutional effect. The core philosophy of Trump's presidency was America First. In simple terms, this meant prioritizing U.S. interests above global cooperation, long-standing alliances, and international agreements. Trump argued that previous administrations had sacrificed American jobs, security, and influence in favor of global systems that did not benefit the country equally. The artificial intelligence framework examines Trump's presidency across 6 key dimensions: economic performance, policy execution, foreign relations, trade strategy, institutional stability, and long-term impact. Each category is examined independently before forming an overall assessment. We begin with the economy. Economics was one of Trump's strongest political selling points. His administration pushed through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. Corporate taxes were significantly reduced, and many individuals received tax relief. The intended goal was to stimulate investment, encourage companies to remain in the United States, and increase employment. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, economic indicators showed strong performance. Unemployment reached historically low levels, including among minority groups. Business confidence increased, and stock markets performed well. Based purely on short-term economic data, the AI assigns a high effectiveness score to Trump's economic strategy. However, artificial intelligence also considers sustainability. Federal debt increased substantially, and the benefits of tax cuts were not evenly distributed. Higher-income earners and corporations gained more than lower-income households. When long-term fiscal risks are included, the AI adjusts the score downward slightly, concluding that Trump's economic policy delivered fast gains but increased future financial pressure. Next, we examine deregulation. Trump made deregulation a central goal of his administration. Environmental rules, financial oversight, and industrial regulations were rolled back to reduce costs and speed up business activity. The AI model evaluates deregulation based on productivity, investment, and risk. In the short term, deregulation improved efficiency in certain sectors. Energy production increased, and businesses faced fewer compliance barriers. From a performance standpoint, the AI rates deregulation as effective. However, the model also flags long-term uncertainty. Reduced environmental protections and financial oversight may create future costs that are not immediately visible. As a result, deregulation receives a moderately high score, with caution about delayed consequences. Foreign policy represents one of the most complex areas of Trump's presidency. Trump rejected traditional diplomatic norms. He openly criticized allies, questioned NATO commitments, and preferred direct, transactional negotiations. The United States withdrew from major international agreements, including the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal. From an AI perspective, these actions had both benefits and costs. Reduced commitments increased flexibility and bargaining power. However, relations with allies weakened, and U.S. influence in international institutions declined. At the same time, the AI identifies the Abraham Accords as a major success. These agreements normalized relations between Israel and several Arab states without military conflict. Based on measurable diplomatic outcomes, the AI rates this as one of the most effective foreign policy achievements of Trump's presidency. Overall, Trump's foreign policy is classified as high impact but unstable. The AI labels it outcome-driven with elevated risk. Trade policy, particularly with China, is analyzed separately. Trump used tariffs as a tool to pressure trade partners and protect domestic industries. The AI examines trade balances, consumer prices, supply chain stability, and retaliation effects. Some domestic industries benefited, and trade negotiations gained leverage. However, costs were passed on to consumers, farmers faced retaliation, and global supply chains were disrupted. The AI concludes that tariffs were effective as leverage, but inefficient as a long-term solution. Trade policy receives a mixed score, slightly below average in overall efficiency. Immigration policy is evaluated next. Trump pursued strict immigration enforcement, reduced refugee admissions, tightened visa requirements, and expanded border security. From an administrative standpoint, enforcement increased. Campaign promises were implemented directly and quickly. However, the AI weighs humanitarian impact, legal challenges, and public trust. Policies such as family separation generated domestic and international backlash, strained institutions, and reduced confidence in government process. As a result, immigration policy receives one of the lowest scores in the AI evaluation. The judiciary is one of Trump's strongest areas. Trump appointed over 200 federal judges and 3 Supreme Court justices. These appointments reshaped the ideological balance of the courts and will influence legal decisions for decades. The AI rates this as a highly effective use of presidential power, noting strong alignment between goals and outcomes. The COVID-19 pandemic is analyzed as a crisis response. The AI separates logistics from communication. Operation Warp Speed accelerated vaccine development faster than any previous historical precedent. Based on delivery speed, production, and distribution, the AI assigns a very high score to logistical execution. However, inconsistent messaging and political conflict reduced public trust and compliance. As a result, the overall pandemic response score is moderate, with strong execution but weak coordination. Institutional stability is one of the most critical evaluation categories. Trump's leadership style placed significant stress on political institutions. The period surrounding the 2020 election intensified polarization and challenged public confidence in democratic processes. The AI evaluates impact, not motivation. Based on trust indicators and institutional strain, this category receives a low score. Finally, The AI evaluates long-term impact. Trump changed how political leaders communicate, campaign, and govern. Direct messaging, media confrontation, and populist rhetoric became central features of modern politics. Regardless of political alignment, the AI identifies Trump as a transformational figure whose influence extends beyond policy into political culture itself. When all categories are combined, the AI produces a final classification. Donald Trump is labeled a high-impact disruptive leader. This means he achieved clear results, executed his agenda effectively in certain areas, and reshaped institutions.